Josh, the next big day for the department is Friday. Friday is a big day because many people will be eligible to begin to apply for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. And this is to help those people that normally would not be eligible to receive state unemployment, right? So Friday is a big day for presumably thousands of Hoosiers.
Yeah, thousands of Hoosiers, tens of thousands, in fact. And that's right. So normally in our program, individuals have to be an employee. And when they're an employee, their employers report to us quarterly their wages by Social Security number. And so when they log into our system, they enter their Social Security number. We can match them up with their wages. We can determine their claim. All that happens almost automatically. Obviously, when we're talking about self-employed or independent contractors, we have none of that information. We don't even know that those individuals exist. And so our unemployment insurance program, the way it's operated for really the 80 plus years of its existence, has not covered those individuals. And so what we've had to do is really scramble since the president signed the CARES Act to make sure that we had some system in place to take claims from individuals that won't match any of the records in our system, to collect information about them and their eligibility, to collect information about their wages, to calculate their claim. And of course, we have to do all that in respect to federal guidelines and federal guidance, because they're the ones that are footing the bill. So it has been a heavy lift for us. Friday is the launch date of the application for the benefits. And then the benefits should start to flow a few weeks after that. We're really doing it in a couple of phases in terms of the programming, but individuals should be able to get in after Friday and file. You know, as Gina pointed out, I know everybody is anxious to get this work done. The weekend will be the heaviest filing time. I think they're most likely to see slower internet speeds over that weekend. They can file on into the next week.
Josh, question from Julia as we continue our town hall here on Rebound, Indiana. Julia wants to know that she's a gig worker. She applied back when she thought she could apply, and obviously she got nothing because she was not in the correct category. Does she not have to reapply, or are you going back to all those who applied back in March?
So, well, yes and no. So she is going to need to reapply. Let me just go ahead and be clear. What we're going to do is we're going to—
So Josh, I'm going to hold you for a second. So all those folks who traditionally are not eligible for unemployment, who thought they could receive the $600 and applied and were rejected, Friday, they should reapply.
They're going to reapply. Now, so what will happen is as they log into their homepage, we will populate their homepage with a link to apply for PUA benefits. It stands for Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. The reason why there's a reapplication process is, again, because the qualifications for this program are different than the regular program. The benefit to the fact that they've filed before is that we know who they are. And so we will be able to contact them via email and let them know that the program is up and running. And we already have some of their basic information. They've already registered. We have their name and their phone number and their demographic information. And so it should be a smoother process, but it is one that they're going to need to make sure that they work their way through. And then they will need to file weekly vouchers on that program to make sure that they continue to receive benefits from us.
Gina Ashley, Chief Unemployment Officer. A question that people are asking at this point during our town hall is there a common error? Is there something that when I file, if presumably I am eligible to receive traditional unemployment, is there something that I'm doing wrong that will slow down the process? Have you noticed anything that will keep someone from getting their money within the 21 days because they may have entered something wrong or did not fill in the right question?
No, it's really not about completing the process wrong. I know that's what some people think they're doing, but we just ask them to answer the questions honestly. So take your time when you're filling out that initial application, answer the questions honestly and accurately, and let us do the work on the back end. Most of the individuals they'll see they have an issue on their claim, and they might think that they did something wrong, but that was just because they answered the questions honestly. A lot of the issues that are coming up now is if somebody had partial wages in a week, or they might have got paid out sick leave or vacation leave. If that's the case, that's one of those where we have to sign it to a claims investigator and they have to review it. It just takes a little bit more time.
Gina, Chris wants to know, while he is applying for unemployment, why can't the department pull his wages from his taxes that have been paid, that he's been paid on taxes every year? Is there an access point to do that, or does he have to put it himself?
So if he's if somebody applying for regular unemployment insurance, we do pull the wages from their employer. Employers are required to report wages to us, and so we do pull that information. So when they're filing their initial claim, they'll see their employment history there, and we ask them to check that, and then if anything's wrong, they can add or modify that. So we are using that information, and that information does lag, and so they have to tell us about when they're filing their weekly vouchers, did they have any wages this week? Do they have any deductible income this week? Because we don't get that information that quickly from employers.
You are watching the virtual town hall. This is Rebound, Indiana, talking to the leadership of the Department of Workforce Development. Josh Richardson, I was told, and people still want to know, are benefits once someone applies and they're eligible, are you still keeping to the 21-day average payout? Is that still the average time that once someone applies for the first time, they will get their money?
So average is the key word there, Rafael. And as we know with averages, some people are going to beat that and some people are going to be behind. And as I mentioned in the opening here, because the system that we run in Indiana is highly automated, there are a lot of people who are beating that 21 days. I know, again, a lot of the people that are tuned in are individuals that have had trouble, and that's why they're here listening to you and trying to hear from us tonight. But there are a lot of individuals that receive benefits as quickly as 15 or 16 days after they file. And it's a high percentage. Again, the problem is when you're talking about 140,000 people filing in a week or 130,000 people filing in a week, if 80% get paid on time, you're still talking about tens of thousands that are waiting on a resolution of their benefits. And so while we tell people, 21 days is the average, it is absolutely the case, even prior to this just crushing volume of claims, that there were individuals that had waited 35 or more days for benefits. Now, we're doing absolutely everything we can. We know how important these benefits are to the families that are on the other side of this, and we know how important they are to the Hoosier economy, that people maintain those benefits and their purchasing power. 21 days, yes, it is still the average. And I think that, we'll get better information on that here when the month ends and we can look back at some of the reporting. But it is absolutely also true that we are aware of people out there that have been waiting even since that second week of March for benefits.
Gina, what are you doing about folks that are facing appeals, right? There are people who may be eligible for the benefit, but there's something not right with the system, something gets flagged, and they're told, hey, you're going to have to appeal. How is that working? Have you added extra people? And in every appeal, I should point out that unemployment is complicated. And so every case, right, is different. So not one case is the same as the other. So I know you can't tell me that the cases will be resolved in 2 days, but what are you doing about those folks that are facing appeals, but are also waiting for their cash?
Right. So everybody has the right to appeal. And so there's sort of 2 points in the process that they might appeal. The first is their monetary determination, and they'll get a letter telling them how much they would get in unemployment weekly if they are found eligible. And that document is appealable. And so that is the vast majority of the items that people have received so far that they might be appealing. And so we have administrative law judges that are trained. They're setting those hearings for people that request them. We were already set up to do telephonic hearings. So that works really well when you have the coronavirus and we're not allowed to leave our houses. So we're continuing to do this telephonic hearing for those that are electing that. The next sort of phase of appeal will be if somebody gets a determination of eligibility that says you're not eligible for unemployment insurance. We're hoping we won't have as many of those because so many people are going to be eligible due to just the circumstances and the additional flexibility that the governor has given us through his executive orders and also that the federal government has given us through the CARES Act.
So our virtual town hall continues. We are at the mercy of technology as we socially distance. We have the commissioner, Fred Payne, on, and Commissioner, we fixed your audio. I'm not sure we have. Let's give it one more go. If not, we apologize to you, but technology sometimes takes over. So Commissioner, can you hear me? Let's try to hear you.
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Commissioner, good evening. It is good to hear you. We apologize, but again, apologies for distancing. Commissioner, how do you see things from your vantage point? This is huge. This is unprecedented. And you've heard from people. The stories are gut-wrenching. People want their money. How are you coping with all of this?
We are trying to address each and every claim, and it is a humongous task. I mean, this is quite frankly something that none of our counterparts in any other state has seen. Neither have we seen the volumes that we're having right now. We are putting forth every resource to make sure that we're addressing each and every claim that comes through our uplink system. We have done a variety of things like reassigning staff and training more than 100 DWD staff. We hired an additional 100 employees, and we've also brought in a third-party vendor to help with the surge of calls for our call center. So we're trying to, and we are putting every resource available. And our governor, every ask that we've made from him, he's given us to make sure that we're addressing all of the needs of Hoosiers. So from an unprecedented standpoint, the claims are high, the volume is high, but also from a staffing standpoint and the resources that we're putting behind this are extreme and they are unheard of as well. But we're making it through. We also want to acknowledge that in the midst of all of this, we are setting up new processes and developing and building completely new systems, all the while making sure that we're paying hundreds of thousands of Hoosiers. So even though we've had hundreds of thousands of claims filed, we have made hundreds of thousands of payments to Hoosiers. And we're doing everything that we can so that we can serve them better and we can serve more people.
Commissioner, Nikki wants to know if she will get retroactive PUA, which is of course, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program for those in the gig industries. Will she get retroactive pay when she initially applied? When those dollars start rolling, will she get money dating back to March?
Yes, one of the things that we did once we got the initial guidance from the U.S. Department of Labor, we signed every agreement that we needed to as quickly as possible to ensure that when individuals are eligible, that all of those payments could be retroactive back to March 29th if the person was eligible or for payments back to that time. So the short answer to your question is yes, if she's eligible during that time period.
And Commissioner, only after something that we just can't even see, sometimes it makes us better because obviously no one has ever lived through something like this. Do you foresee changes in the future? Do you see, in light of the way you operate and the way you handle benefits? Is that a discussion that will happen months later?
Oh, obviously, anytime you go through an event like this, there's always sort of a reflection. And even before this, one of the things that we've continuously done at the Department of Workforce Development is have continuous review and reflection. And we'll definitely have that with this consistently with what we've done before. But more importantly, we have new systems that are online now. And we'll definitely be reviewing those new systems and actually how we bring new systems online.
Well, one more question for you before I ask some questions of our other guests, Commissioner. You mentioned that the governor has said to you, whatever you need or whatever needs to happen to make this work, follow through. Is this something, I guess, if you had 1,000 more claims agents, if you had 1,000 more customer service folks, would that make it any faster for Gina and Josh to get less complaint calls? I mean, is this an issue of that hiring more people would fix the problem, or would that just complicate matters?
Well, hiring more people, anytime you add more people to the mix, that does help a situation. But the number of people that we have working on claims and working our call center is not the number one problem. The number one issue is really, quite frankly, a system that allows people to get in, but there's still going to be some wait times for individuals. So more people and our systems upgrades as they go through, we are going to have better call wait time. We are going to have better metrics on that. The metrics that we have in place right now that we're looking at from a week to week basis, they are improving, although they're not improving fast enough, so that many of the Hoosiers out there who are trying to get through on our call lines, they're not filling them effectively themselves. But what I would ask, though, is that prior to calling, that claimants read all of the information on our website, because that could save them a call into our system, because many of the questions that are asked are already answered on our website. And one of the number one calls or the questions that we get when people call in is really general questions that are already answered. So if there's anything that could help the system, it really is looking at our website, looking at the question that you have to answer, that you need to ask, and seeing if it's addressed on our website. And by and large, they probably are if it's a general question.
Commissioner Fred Payne joining us on our virtual town hall here for the Rebound, Indiana. Josh, I have a question for you, and hopefully this is something you can help me with. Samantha wants to know, what if I haven't been paid and I've been called back to work? Will I be paid for the last month?
Yes. So, and again, anytime we talk about individual specific cases, we only know what we know. But assuming that Samantha has been filing her vouchers each week and that she's later found to be eligible, right, which we haven't made that determination
Right.
yet, otherwise
Right.
she'd be receiving them. But to the extent that she's found to be deemed eligible for these weeks, absolutely, those benefits will come. And generally, they would come immediately after we release this. And remember that there's the $600 that would be added onto the state benefits. And so we absolutely have individuals where we're releasing multiple weeks and multiple weeks of the $600 at the same time. And that's the case even if she goes back to work. And by the way, we all hope that that's what happens. Obviously this gets a little easier for us at the time the Hoosiers start going back to work. And we know that just as soon as it's safe enough to do that, and we're as anxious for it as anybody is.
Definitely, we all want to get back to work safely and in a healthy environment. But Josh, let me flip that question. I like Samantha's question, but here's one from me. What happens as people do return to work? They've been receiving unemployment benefits. At what point do I call you and say, hey, I've been called back to RTV6, I've been called back to Eli Lilly, I've been called back to Main Street Frankfurt or Greenwood or Pendleton. Do I have to report that I'm back at work and to stop the payments? How does that work?
Yeah, 100%. They're going to need to report that. And so, for individuals, and again, almost everyone out there has looked through this filing process. One of the first questions that we ask each week on that weekly voucher is, did you work this week? Yes or no? That's unfortunately, it's a common source of fraud in our system that people say no when they should have said yes. And I think it's going to be tempting, especially for individuals that feel like they've got back weeks that they're owed. But it is going to be really important that when they get to the time when they're called back to work, they go ahead and answer honestly to that question. And then we can take care of the rest so long as they answer the questions honestly.
Josh, there's been some talk from other states that the other states may be running out of unemployment benefits and claims. Are we in that position, or are we okay moving forward?
So this is another question that has a couple different layers. First of all, nobody should be worried about the state running out of funds here. There's an agreement that the state has with the federal government, and should our unemployment insurance trust fund run out of money, we would immediately turn on an agreement with them that allows them to advance us money to pay the claims. And so nobody should worry about that in the sense of, will benefits continue to be payable? Obviously, for those that are interested in the state's health and the health of the unemployment insurance trust fund, that is a bit of a concern for us. We've done a lot of work over the last decade in Indiana. Longtime viewers may remember that we borrowed over $2.1 billion during the Great Recession to pay benefits. And so we've done a lot of digging out. As we really rolled into the first week of the coronavirus shutdowns, we had about $900 million in the trust fund. And so we have enough to cover a couple of weeks of even high unemployment. But again, that's another area where we'll benefit seeing people go back to work soon. But nobody should worry that we're going to run out of benefits and be unable to pay them.
The RTV6 virtual town hall continues. You were hearing from Josh Richardson. He's the Chief of Staff for the Department of Workforce Development. Gina, let me bring you into the conversation. Gina Ashley, she is the Chief Unemployment Officer. Gina, hopefully you can help me with this one, because Samantha wants to know that she hasn't been paid. Excuse me, as I'm looking here. Samantha wants to know, what happens if you work for a temp agency and the workplace you were assigned to has shut down, so she can't get the paperwork that she needs to fill out the application process with you? What do you do if you're caught in that kind of quandary where you can't get all the information you need because of the shutdowns?
So she should still go online to the online system and file her initial application and answer all the questions that she can about that employment, and submit the application. And then a claims investigator will contact her. If we don't have enough information in there to make a decision, she can give us information. They will try to contact the employer too if we need information from the employer. So she'll still be able to file that claim.
Josh Richardson, you have made some changes to the application process. You found initially head on, we began all of this, that there were some questions that weren't making sense. You just dropped them. Can you talk about that so that people understand that you try to remove some hurdles as people did try to apply for benefits?
And so there are a couple of things worth mentioning here. So really, as right as we rolled into the coronavirus, again, we were directed to look at all things that we could do in terms of state statute to make sure that people were impacted were covered by our system. And a couple of those are related to being able to work and available for work. So under traditional unemployment insurance law, we want people that are connected to the workforce and capable of working. And so, traditionally, if an individual said, I cannot work because I cannot find appropriate childcare, and that prevents me from taking a job, they actually could have been deemed ineligible for state benefits. We changed that pretty quickly, and we've added some questions both to the claims filing application and to that weekly voucher that let us know that if you're out of work because of coronavirus, we're able to work around some of those. Now, again, it doesn't eliminate all of the different eligibility questions that we have to answer, but it does take care of some of these that are directly related to coronavirus and just don't make sense in our context. And so we have been able to help on that. There's another one, Rafael, that I know a lot of your viewers will be a little bit interested in, and that is to the extent that they have deductible income. So, they're going into their homepage and they're seeing that that's an issue that's holding their claim. We actually will only hold the number of weeks that are impacted by that income. So if you have 2 weeks of vacation pay that were paid out, we'll hold those first 2 weeks because that can potentially question your eligibility. But that third week would release automatically. So that's an important one. The other piece of this is the governor has waived the 1 week waiting period. So under the traditional law, an individual was required to be eligible for a week but couldn't get anything. I don't want people to confuse that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get the benefits a week faster. What it means is that you will be compensated for that week if you're eligible for it. And so what it means is that first check might be a little bit, or that first deposit might be a little bit bigger because it could include 2 or 3 weeks instead of just 1 or 2.
Everybody wants to know if retroactive benefits will be paid all at once, or will you stagger them once the benefits are approved? You get all your money in one lump sum, or you get it in payments?
So I'll go ahead and take that one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, that's all right.
So here's where we're at is that there are kind of 2 different groups. At the individual level, I would say that their deposits will all come on the same day once they're cleared up. Again, depending on when they filed their most recent voucher, it could be a matter of days, but it'll all come at once. One important thing to point out, though, and we saw it just with the $600 that we added, and we may very well see it again with the pandemic unemployment, because the amount of dollars that the department is pushing out are so massive, it is possible that you and your neighbor that filed at the same time may see those deposits come through on different days. And it's also possible that you will see those payments on your claimant homepage, even when they haven't hit your bank account yet. And that's because the dollar amounts that we're talking about are so large that it's been even a struggle for the bank to make all of the transactions in the same day. But they will come fairly rapidly after that decision comes. Same day for the same individual, but you could have 2 different individuals that get it in waves. It should just be a matter of days, though, between the time you see it in your account and the time it hits your bank account.
Josh, thank you. Commissioner, I want to bring you in because the number one question popping up right now on social media for this process is still many questions from those who are anticipating the sign up that begins on Friday for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. Josh did talk about that, but I think it bears repeating again. Can you just walk people through this process? Because Josh did a great job at the beginning answering that question, but we still have a number of people who are really concerned, and they want to make sure they fully understand what you expect from them on Friday so they can get their money sometime beginning in May. So can you walk me through that as detailed as possible, because people really want to know that information?
Sure. That program is designed for individuals who wouldn't ordinarily be eligible for unemployment insurance under our regular program. Self-employed individuals, folks who have limited work history, those individuals who are independent contractors. And what we expect in this new application process is for that individual to go in and to provide us information about who they are, because right now our system doesn't recognize who they are. So we'll be taking a variety of information just to verify who they are, the type of work that they've been doing. Once we receive all of that information, then it kind of goes through our process of evaluating. And then around the week of May 8th, those who are eligible, because we have to work and determine eligibility and really cross-reference wage records, or better yet, employment records or employment data from revenue services and other entities to prove or to demonstrate the amount of money that was made by that entity before. And then payments will start being dispersed around the first week or the week beginning May 8th. And all of that's contingent upon the person going through the process, providing us with all the information, and then being eligible for those payments.
Those payments are pretty much the sort of the catch-all. Is there, Commissioner, is there a reason why someone would not, even though they're part of the gig economy, they either drive for Uber, Lyft, they're a contractor, they fit presumably in this category. Is there any reason why someone could still be denied for these dollars?
Sure. Generally speaking, the way that the CARES Act is designed, it's designed to capture as many people as possible. However, I don't want to say that everyone who applies is going to be eligible, because there are plenty of situations where one, we can't verify the employment data, we can't verify who the person is. So all of those things could be a part of either a person's claim getting held up or a person's claim being denied.
Josh, let me ask you this. Is there any reason why someone may not get money because of either child support or garnishment or some other thing that I may not know about, but they know about, right? Because every case is particular, and sometimes people don't disclose all their personal financials. But is there any reason that someone may not get the $600 that's part of this pandemic unemployment assistance program?
Yeah, well, you hit at some of it. So child support is a big one. We would any court order to deduct child support, we would work through that. The other thing is individuals have the opportunity to have taxes withheld. This is taxed as income, at the federal level, and so they can choose to have that deducted from their benefits now, and many will. But in most cases, once you're eligible for the state benefits or the pandemic benefits, that $600 gets added in. And there are very few situations where that will come down, but child support and taxes would be the biggest two of those. I don't anticipate that there will be much in the way of garnishments to start out here, but certainly we'll have to comply with any court orders as this goes on.
And Gina Ashley, Brittany heard you talking about claims investigator, and she wants to know, is there a priority process? How do you pick which claim to look at first? Is there one that's more serious than another, or do they just go into the hopper and they just deal with them as they come in?
So really, we're trying to look at claims that are the oldest that came in to ensure that we're addressing those that are the oldest and have the most weeks on hold. So we don't look at it on an issue basis. It's really as they come in, we process them through, evaluate them. And some can take longer. If it's one where we have to contact the claimant and contact the employer, and if we don't get a hold of the claimant, we'll have to wait for them to call us back. Same with the employer. So sometimes that can take a little bit of time.
Gina, thank you so much. Commissioner, as you look from your vantage point at what is a daunting task, what are your thoughts as we begin to wrap up this conversation? How do you move forward on something that no one has ever seen before?
I think we keep moving ahead every day. Because of this situation, because of the volume, there's a new challenge, and we have to continue to focus on the things that we're doing well. And then when we get feedback about a system slowing down, or there's a new program that we have to prop up pretty quickly, we don't have time to sit and try to figure out how it can't be done and think about all the barriers that are in place. We just have to continue to move forward with the resources that we have and try to move as quickly as possible. I would say that our small but mighty IT team has done a heck of a job in standing up new systems in a matter of weeks, when in normal times it would take months or even a year plus to set these systems up. So shortly, I would just say we have to keep moving ahead.
And Commissioner, one more thing. Could you talk to that family in Frankfurt, Kokomo, Bloomington, in Greenfield that is still struggling? Because I know you have been very much hands-on, and you've been talking to people, and you've been connecting with people. How do you address that frustration?
Well, one, we do understand the frustration because we feel that some of our family members and some of our friends are going through some of the same things. Uh, each person who is assigned to a claim under our unemployment insurance system is dedicated to making sure that they address every claim and that every person who's eligible will receive their benefits. Unfortunately, we do have a high claims volume. It's unprecedented. Um, and we want to get to each claim as quickly as we can. And if we could have gotten to all of them yesterday, we would have. The one thing that I would say is continue to be patient with us and rest assured that everyone here at this agency is working as quickly as they can under the circumstances that we have.
Josh Richardson, Andrew wants to know, as we sort of get close to the end of this conversation, if we have to pay taxes on the federal stimulus money or on the unemployment insurance dollars. Will we have to pay taxes on those dollars?
Well, so I think there was just a report out, and certainly I'm not an expert at the $1,200 stimulus payments that are out there, but I think that will not be taxed, or at least that's what I've read, though we're not an expert at that program. On your unemployment taxes, yes, they are treated as taxable income. And again, we're not necessarily the experts at that, though. Under federal guidance, we are required to offer people the election to have their taxes withheld, and then we withhold that, and we would make those payments to the IRS, withheld payments on their behalf. It's not a requirement. We don't require you to have your taxes withheld, but I do believe that this will all be treated as taxable income. And again, that's not a department level decision. That is a federal tax law decision.
And Gina, Kim says she commends the Department of Workforce Development. They are doing their best. That comes from Kim. So from your perspective as the Chief Unemployment Officer, what can someone do tomorrow and moving forward to make sure that they make this process as easy for you to pay them as quickly as possible? Because you do want to pay people. So what should I be doing beginning tomorrow to make sure that that check comes in on time?
Sure. Well, I want to thank Tim because I can tell you that means a lot to me and a lot to the people that are working really hard, because we have people just working around the clock answering things and trying to adjudicate these claims to get the funds to Hoosiers. So I would say just continue to be patient with us. We've had a lot of kindness our way. People that, get disconnected from phone calls or have to wait on the phone for a long time. If you can be patient and continue to be kind to us, that's the best. We are doing our best. And again, if you can answer all the questions truthfully and honestly and read the questions, that's really the best thing that you can do is give us the accurate information. If we have the accurate information, then we can do our job.
We want to thank you for joining us tonight for this robust discussion. You just heard from Gina Ashley. She's the Chief Unemployment Officer for the Department of Workforce Development. You've also heard tonight from Josh Richardson. He's the Chief of Staff, and of course, the Commissioner, Fred Payne. We want to thank the three of you, really. This has been a very long day. I've seen you in other parts of the state doing other Zoom webinars. Mr. Payne, I saw you with the governor today, so I know you've all been very busy at your other job, but I think sharing information with people allows them to be empowered to make the best decision for their family. We want to thank you for joining us for this Rebound Indiana virtual town hall. Please keep sharing your stories as we magnify your voices, seeking answers for you, and maybe there'll be some changes if necessary. I'm Rafael Sanchez. For all of us here at RTV6, thank you for watching and have a good evening.